mostly ready to go. I hope I do.
Yeah.
I've been running a little ragged this morning, so.
It's all good.
All right.
What's that?
It's not going. What's it doing here?
Primary color.
There we go.
News round.
Why is it not showing up there? There we go. I hope they fix the YouTube comments that they show up today.
I know.
That was a little weird.
What happened with all that?
See, people think it's us. They think we're the ones that are technologically challenged.
They don't know.
Are you messing with the names?
I am.
I was like, I looked up and it's got a bright, it's kind of like a orangey red.
Well, I had it on O'Neill's.
Ah, there you go.
There we go. Look. But is it popping up based on somebody? No, it's just populating to both of us. I think that's a little bit obtruse. I think it just needs to be air. Just air.
Yeah, that's a little less. I was gonna say obnoxious. I don't mean that bad, but I'm just saying, you know.
Although I do think that this font is more matches us.
Listen,
it's called Bangers.
I love it.
Bangers and mash. Isn't that Irish?
It's got to be. Here's what I want to know. Oh, I didn't share. Okay, again, maybe somebody can explain this to me. Like these groups are showing up.
Yeah.
Under me. Like I don't even know what this means. I'm scared to even say it because if it's something that I don't know.
Mom always said, don't say something that you don't know what it is, because
that's what I'm saying. Okay, so this looks like. Okay, so this doesn't look like it's bad.
Okay.
The group is My Onslow. So apparently Onslow is a place in North Carolina.
Onslow, North Carolina. A place we've neither been nor heard of. How are you a part of this?
I've never even heard of this.
Yes.
So why is this showing up in my groups? Like,
see,
just because somebody invites me, can somebody put me, maybe somebody can answer this in the chat. Can somebody just put me in a group without my permission?
I think that is true. Hey, what if I did this font right here, Chris? You know what that font's called?
What is it called?
It's called Protest Riot.
I like it. Oh, that is us.
Now, that doesn't look like a protest riot to me.
No, no.
I mean,
that's weak, bro.
Bro, I started to say we're on live.
No, don't. Yep.
Good I started to say that.
Good filter. Good filter. Oh no! Why did it do that? Okay, I know where I was at though. So
there's one of them called Dynapuff.
No, we don't want that.
Dynapuff.
That sounds really soft.
Yes. Back to my word. Okay. All right. Let's just do bangers.
Yeah, let's do bangers.
Bangers and mash. We're Irish. Where's our people in the chat?
Where's all the chat peoples?
Where our people be?
We got nothing yet. We got no
our
chat.
Chat's messed up again.
Doggone it. Okay, so I got that all shared out. Let me go to X. Uh-oh. There we go.
That's our new. We created we created a new one. We created a competitor.
Chad. Isn't Chad the male version of Karen?
That's what I'm saying, man. Chad GPT. It's the Dillingham Group competitor to Chat GPT. Ours is Chad GPT.
Chad GPT. I like it. All right, let me do this in X real quick.
I mean, I better clear my throat if I'm even going to do the meteorological report.
You got to get that cleared up. for sure. Okay, let me update that. Let me go back over here. We'll do a little share on X because we do, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
We do get
X traffic.
X. Yeah. It doesn't show up. And that's the hard part. Sometimes people might look and, be like, well, there's only a handful of viewers on Facebook or whatever. But what you're missing is because we're broadcasting.
It's like procrastinating.
We're
procrastinating our broadcast, which is
we are broadcast across. Say that 5 times fast.
Yes.
Multiple platforms, so it's spread out.
Yes,
but we do have.
Yes,
we do have a lot of. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple on X as we speak.
That's it. Yeah.
So
over 1,000 viewers right now. Ken Bistarkey, Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarkey checking in today. 25 degrees, high of 28. Feels like 15 in Northeast Ohio. A little break for the weather for them. Currently in Dayton, it is snowy. Snow in Dayton. And how about Toledo?
Toledo, it is a chilly 16 degrees this morning. No snow.
Again, here we are. Dayton.
So we went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And guess what happened?
You got snow and ice?
Bro, we got snow and ice. Hey, you know what?
What?
Oh no, that's not right. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, it is. Guess what? I had not checked the weather here recently. Let me retract that.
Uh-oh.
When I looked this morning, it was 16 degrees and it wasn't supposed to get up. It is now 27 degrees in Toledo, Ohio.
Are you kidding me?
A balmy 27.
I'm upstairs again today. So if y'all hear Annie and Murph, it stopped snowing. That's good. So I took a look at our radar out here. Let's see here. Let me look at the radar one more time. The radar screen's pretty bright. Yeah.
I like it.
It's not snowing anymore. That's good. It is, although strangely, it is 33 degrees. What happened?
How about that? I'm telling you, something has changed. So,
but here's the deal. This is why I don't know if I can trust meteorologists. No offense, Ken Bistarkey. But it says right on there, it says Beaver Creek, Ohio, 33 degrees, a snow shower with a high for the day of 32 and a low for 14. And it literally says 33 right on top of the high of 32. So I need Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarkey to allow us to understand how we can trust meteorologists when they can't get that straight. I'm sure he'll have an answer.
He'll have an answer for us because that's just what he is. You just said, you said it interesting. Meteorologist.
Meteorologist.
I was like,
that's the way we say it in the hood.
That's the hood meteorologist.
That's it. I'm like, hey, that's a hood meteorologist. He's got ribs.
There we go. Good morning to Kingdom Minded joining us on YouTube. We got some folks on YouTube this morning. X is following. It's happening. It's rocking and rolling today.
He said, I'm not a meteorologist, I'm your meteorologist. That's what I'm talking about. That's a good point. You know what? Kingdom Mind, and I appreciate that it's Kingdom Mind because the last few weeks we've had Kingdom Nevermind. And so this is a good departure from the lunacy of the last few weeks.
This is true. Well, and you're playing hurt today. So people just need to know you're fighting through.
Mama said I'm a little peaked.
It's circa, what would that be? 1986 holiday tournament.
Oh my Lord.
Thornton.
The sickest I've ever been in my life, bro. I had strep throat and bronchitis that the doctor said, I'm not going to do an x-ray. He said, but you probably have pneumonia, that demonstrated a couple of things.
What did it demonstrate?
First, my grit.
That's where I was going to go.
And it demonstrated my grit. I think it also demonstrated how dumb at the time, and I think I don't think it was purposeful, but how dumb it was that when the Air Force Academy came to talk to me to offer me a scholarship, that Coach Bogle said I missed the team meeting when I was at the doctor, and he knew that the doctor that the doctor had come to get me and took me to his office. The team doctor came to get me, took me to his office, did a couple of tests. I was strep positive, bronchitis. He said, I'm certain it's pneumonia. He gave me an antibiotic bomb, and he said, you're going to feel absolutely horrible for about 4 hours. Go home, sleep. I got up an hour and a half before the game, got to the locker room, and came out and went triple overtime to beat Harvey Thornton. And Coach Bogle sent the Air Force Academy away saying I missed a team meeting. That right there is the microcosm of all you need to know about my relationship and experience with Bob Bogle.
There you go.
That was Bob Bogle to me.
But I think you had an influence on him because if I'm not mistaken, I think like after he left coaching, he became like a missionary or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he needed to redeem some things.
Some redemption in his life.
Although I can't be salty about it, because it was during that period of time that God was really dealing with my heart.
Jesus blocked it.
which is such a segue.
I literally was just getting ready to say, why are we doing this now? We're not even live yet.
Oh man, let's go.
We better go live. We better go live.
We got 30 minutes for our podcast. I got my Zoom expert.
Oh, let's go. Here we go. We're going to rock this one. Here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham alongside my big brother, Ken Dillingham, Jr. the third, playing hurt this morning, but he's fighting through it and fighting through snow, sickness, all the things. But nothing is going to stop us, Ken.
No.
From the Mobilized Church Podcast, episode number 252. Can you believe that?
Chris, we've often said, you cannot stop us. You can only hope to contain us.
I think we're the ones that made that phrase popular.
True.
I don't know that I stole it from us.
Yeah. I started to say, well, and it could be potentially we didn't create it.
Potentially.
We didn't create it, but we made it famous.
We did.
We didn't start the fire.
Oh man, we're going Billy Joel reference this morning. I did not have that on the bingo card.
Hey, tell her about it.
Uptown Girl.
I know, man.
Oh, man, we could just. I mean, you are the piano man. Like we know that. So.
Who was the Uptown Girl?
Oh, Christy Brinkley.
Hello,
yeah,
somebody.
Absolutely. We knew that. We knew that. Anyway, let's move right along.
Hey,
we are live and recording on this. So this isn't the pre-show.
But my wife did admit one day that Christy Brinkley's probably the prettiest 60-year-old that ever has lived. I told her, I said, yeah, because you're not 60 yet.
Oh, look at that. Never miss a moment. Never miss a chance, do you?
Tell her about it.
That's what I'm talking about. That's so good. All right. Well, we're going to rock and roll today. You're playing hurt, but you're here.
Yeah. And why did I wear aircraft carrier gray on a day when I've got a little bit of a peaked look about me?
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. Well, we appreciate you fighting.
Nobody's listening to our podcast to look at us.
We know that is 100% the truth. So we had a very lively pre-show. I would encourage people to go check it out. Jump on early and catch out the live show because you never know. You really, truly never know what's going to be said.
Yes. Our live pre-show is not just meaningless banter. Well, it might be.
You just don't know where it's going to go.
Yes, it's still very entertaining.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. All right. So we don't just talk about the mission, we live it out. You've got an ongoing X group that you do immediately following the podcast. And so that's why the last several weeks, we've kind of tried to keep it condensed. So we're getting a little bit of a late start. So this is going to be a little bit short and it's going to be a little tricky because this is a great topic. And this is something that you've talked about quite a bit, but we're going to really have to lock in to get this really, talk through the whole process and
fully fleshed out, as they say.
There you go. Fleshed out. That was the word I was looking for. Fully fleshed out. So, all right. So today, the title of our episode is, I started to sing a little song about superstitious, but I won't do that. Breaking superstition. Why everything happens for a reason is not biblical faith, which is just right out of the gate, kind of confronting some things. And this is again, we reference this often, but we were told originally, like, what are you guys going to do with your podcast after you talk about your little discipleship stuff? Like, what are you going to do after that? This is one of those things, Ken, where what we're trying to do through the podcast is address the reality that discipleship influences and affects every single place, every single part of your life. And the reason that this stuff is important is because we behave what we believe. And when really what you believe and what you feel and what your emotions guide and direct how you behave, if those things are misguided, it will lead you into places. And actually what can happen, Ken, is if we don't have the right perspective on this particular topic, what can end up happening is it actually becomes demoralizing. You start to lose your confidence in God. You lose your faith in him, your trust, even more than faith. I would say even you start to lose your trust in him. So set up for us this idea of why this concept of everything happens for a reason is not an articulation of true biblical faith.
I think for me, I think the starting point is just anthropological. I think we start from an anthropology perspective because the cool thing about the Bible is the Bible is a full spectrum. It's a full spectrum view of the human condition. And so that in a I guess secular context, they would call that anthropology, the human condition, the experience of man. So starting from that launching point, I believe that it's important to note that the human instinct is universally bent toward superstition. There's just sort of a deep inherent tendency to view things through some kind of mystical. I'm going to use the word mystical because then that takes in the anthropological piece. That situates outside of just Christianity or the Judeo-Christian worldview. that there's this mystical cause and effect that's happening, that's going on in our life that we're inside of, that we're subject to. And so this, I think, is something that it creates a mindset that events don't just happen. And we see this across, cultures and history. Humans sort of assume that something unseen is causing things. That there's something going on behind the scenes. We can't see it, but we know it exists. And I think what's strange is that, and I don't know if this relates, boy, this could really get into the theological interpretation of anthropology, but that there is, it doesn't matter if you're Christian or if you're part of some kind of other form of idolatrous religion, that people tend to think that good outcomes mean that you have favor with those controlling forces, and bad outcomes mean that there's some kind of punishment or hidden intent that's going on. So we see this in pagan mythology. We see it in idolatry. People talk about omens. Oh, that was a sign, or, an omen, charms, karma style thinking. Well, it's, I mean, that's a famous, even today on social media,
Yeah.
karma, karma happens, right? It's like, and this idea that fate and destiny, right? These fate and destiny narratives. I believe Oprah was a large proponent of sort of adopting sort of this pseudo-Christian mindset that invoked a lot of these ideas when it was, she talked about that you have the ability to attract, the law of attraction.
Law of attraction.
You have the
That
ability
book
to,
was so popular.
right?
Even what's crazy is that book was popular among a lot of Christians.
See, that's the thing. So I think that's why this is so important today, because setting that up causes us to understand that it is a basic human instinct. There's every form of religion out there. We had a meeting where I met a man just Sunday who was Hindu. We had dinner last Saturday with a family they were Indian, but one of the families was Christian, the other family was Hindu. And this idea of karma, this idea that what you're doing is affecting what's going to happen on the other side. And there's, that there's going to be these things that, you're affecting the next generation, even as karma shows up. So even that is an idea that there are controlling forces that we can have input to. Our actions have an input into them, but at the end of the day, things are happening to us and around us that we don't have a whole lot of control over. And hopefully, if we can, even Native American Indians had this idea of good medicine or bad medicine, a white man, bad medicine. And that means bad luck. The white settlers, the European settlers were coming through, and all of a sudden they didn't realize it, but they were bringing their diseases, their European diseases like the flu and different things, and they were getting sick, even dying, and they were equating it to that the gods were not happy.
Yeah.
That they'd let the white man come through, and so the medicine man, what did the medicine man do? Well, the medicine man got out and he did his, incantations and made his mixtures of, all the, whatever, and tried to please the gods so that they would get good medicine back, which is good favor and good luck. So this is huge, Chris.
It is. And as you said, I think one of the things as you're talking there that just kind of jumped out to me is I think it's an illustration that there is something inside of all of us that recognizes something beyond ourselves, something that's involved in the the events of lives and the things that are going on around us. Kim Bastarkey makes a great point. He said Oprah was basically saying that you're your own God. And it was ultimately that's an expression of the unbelief. Like we can't really explain what's going on, but we know that there's something happening. And so instead of having to surrender or submit to something that you cannot really get your mind wrapped around or whatever, make yourself your own God. And you become the one that gives the directives and dictates things in your life. And it was, even just silly things, the law of attraction. I remember just kind of studying that a little bit to understand what it was, because it was such a sensation, even just silliness. Like if you just declare it and have good thoughts, and it's amazing how many things that they take that are biblical concepts and principles and sprinkle in this stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you just have good thoughts, and if you speak it and you say the right things and you have the right thoughts and the right words, then you can get a front row parking spot at the grocery store.
That was the exact example. That was the exact example I was thinking, Chris. Just speak a positive affirmation and you'll get a front row parking spot.
Which, by the way, get a front row parking spot. And then you're going to get it every time if you say that.
And strangely, you could go and hear that same message at just about any charismatic church next Sunday.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way,
100% true, bro.
Which, by the way, but to step it back from what Kim Bastarkey's saying is that I think we have a tendency to think of it as that what was being promoted was you're your own God. But I think for some, it could be explained as to saying that there is a force around us, that
Yes.
there's an energy, and that we have the ability to affect that energy. This is zodiac. I mean, this is ancient Chinese metaphysical zodiac, that that you have energy medians and energy zones, and that there's energy going on around us, and you have energy in your body. And so the idea is that you need to then positively tap into that energy. And we don't have time. Here we are at 10:42, but I think
this is an important, man. This is a huge thing, because what you said, kid, you said you can go to some of these churches and you can hear the same kinds of languages. J-Rod put on their vending machine God. You can hear a lot of the same kind of language. So then what can happen is you can swing on the pendulum. You can go way over and think that, we've all seen the examples of these charismatic preachers that are flying around in their jets, and they're, if you just speak the positive word, if you sow the seed of faith, then God's going to give it back to you 100 times. I was in a meeting, Ken, one time with an evangelist. I won't mention his name, but an evangelist that was not apostolic, but very Pentecostal, very well known. And his message was an hour and a half of an offering, basically saying, and this is a man who had seen a ton of miracles happen.
Yeah.
It was an hour and a half, and basically was saying that your miracle is going to be in direct correlation to the size of the seed that you sow. And like I was in that meeting. It's not something that I heard somebody tell me about this. Like, it was legitimately in that meeting. Well, here's the reality. This is the way the enemy works. There are principles, like we're just talking about, speaking words of faith, believing in your heart, having a mindset of faith. Those things do produce, it's an expression of faith that does move God to move in our lives. But if we're not careful, we'll let this superstitious stuff, like you call it folk theology. We let this superstitious folk theology replace true biblical faith. And then people get all confused and they get frustrated when it doesn't quite work out like they wanted it to, or whatever.
Yeah, I like Collision of Souls makes a statement, God will be all in all, 1 Corinthians 15:28, which I love, because he follows up with saying it is finished, quoting there Jesus. And what I think is interesting about what he's saying is that Paul, that same Paul that wrote 1 Corinthians 15, also wrote in 1 Corinthians 1:24, Jesus Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. And so we need to understand, I think that what we need to really wrap our minds around, Chris, is this idea that we better be careful, because although many Christians reject pagan superstition, sometimes unknowingly, as you just demonstrated, adopt a Christianized version of it, right? And what you just said was that when you said that your miracle is in direct proportion to your seed, what just happened was that your seed, the seed your money, the seed you plant, is the most important force, that it is the operative force. When the reality is the Bible says faith in Jesus Christ, he is the great power of God. There is no just force floating around, but sometimes what happens is because we have a bent toward this, and because it's around us, and because there is this humanistic mysticism that's going on that we just mentioned about Oprah, everything happens for a reason. These are phrases that we hear sometimes Christians sort of parrot, a Christianized version of this superstitious worldview or lens. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
That
sounds biblical.
Bro, that is a big one. God must have wanted this to happen, they say. Or if it happened, it must be God's will. Or God's controlling every detail, every thought, and every action. So so the mindset is, it sounds spiritual, but unfortunately what it does is it removes human responsibility. It removes moral accountability. It denies the reality of evil. It doesn't it doesn't rest on the necessity of prayer and obedience. And ultimately, it removes the urgency for mission, which I think uh, is unfortunately um, Calvinism.
Right.
Who's going to be saved
Right.
will be saved, and God's controlling the events of the world. And so it replaces faith with fatalism, or what the theologians call determinism, divine determinism. It will be as God wants it, so you can't fight against it. He is the irresistible force. But there it is. God is
Yeah.
an irresistible force. And so what's God doing? He's working everything according to the counsel of his will. And so what people think is that every thought that people have, every action that they have is somehow predetermined by God. And this is the unfortunate blending of the kind of idolatrous superstition that has invaded Christianity.
Yeah.
And we need to watch out for.
Yeah. No, 100%. Um, eh, so man, there's so many ways. I want to make sure that we really kind of get through like all of this stuff, because I think this is so important, because that idea and that concept, Ken, it sounds biblical when you
Mm-hmm.
say everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds biblical. And so what I think is important today, I think is as we confront these things,
Right.
I think it's important that we frame it within the context of like what is really the biblical component. So tell me why everything happens for a reason. How do we reframe that? How do we rephrase that?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I would say. Okay.
Okay.
This would be my response. And you tell me if I'm
Okay.
tracking. is because we do understand that God is sovereign,
Mm-hmm.
and that God does move and God does work. Like you said, the issue with that statement, everything happens for a reason, is it removes your own actions, the consequences of your own actions, all that kind of stuff. But here's what we do know. The balance, I think, of that is all things work together for good to
Yeah.
them that love God and are the called according to his purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think what happens is
Somebody just Philip Flowers, by the way, just posted that. Said you have the verse, all things work together for good to them who are called.
There you go. I didn't even see that. But
Yeah.
that's where my mind goes, is all things work together for good is not the same thing as everything happens for a reason. All things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. All of a sudden you redirect and you reframe it that says, you know what? This didn't necessarily happen for a reason. It happened because we live in a fallen, broken world.
Right.
It happened because we've made some poor decisions. It happened because sometimes just horrendous things happen. But our faith is not that everything happens for a reason. Our faith is that God has the ability to take everything and use it for purpose.
Yeah, Chris, there's a what you're mentioning here. There, a lot of times what we do, for those that are listening, my brother and I have a group that we lead, a group of peers that believe in the missional expression of the church, where disciples make disciples who make disciples, and that missional overflow creates not only authentic witness through transformation, but also a motivation to go and bring hope to more people. And it's called the Mobilized Church Network. And one of the things that we talk about is that we need to have good spiritual conversations. And good spiritual conversations are based on asking good questions. And so I think this is an example where asking people questions would help reveal where everything happens for a reason situates in their worldview. I think it's important. I think it's important for people to understand that when somebody says everything happens for a reason, there's a reason they're saying that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
There's a reason that they're saying everything happens for a reason. For some people, I would ask the question, why is it that you believe that everything happens for a reason?
Mm-hmm.
and allow them to begin to try to develop a theological where we could pull out, did they read the book, The Law of Attraction? Do they believe some kind of a blend of like they're believing the return of Jesus blended with the return of the Jedi? Is it like, is their worldview and their lens, their theology informed by, return of Jesus and return of the Jedi, which is like the Force, that they might not even know those things. Tracy Russell mentioned, she said, my grandmother, as ours was, a Cherokee Indian full of old wives' tales. Karma is the same thing. And, saying that this idea that there's, that there are forces, that there's to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so in the realm of God, this universal idea that you do something and something happens. But I think that the question that I would ask, and this, I think this is important, Chris, when we say, when a person says everything happens for a reason, the clarifying question is, first would be, why do you believe that?
Yeah.
I think the second question is, do you believe that everything that happens is the will of God?
That's interesting.
Do you believe that everything that happens is the will of God? Because the only way that you could believe that everything happens for a reason, would be that the will of God is somehow being accomplished through every single event, every word, every action, whatever, which is, I believe, which is the great hurdle of Calvinism.
Yes.
Because you listen to hyper-Calvinists try to explain that that rape was the will of God.
Absolutely.
That there was a purpose in it.
Right. How can you explain that?
Well, you can't. You can't theologically, because what'll happen is it all falls around their feet, like the poor sister in the church in Texas was singing in the choir, and her slip fell down and it fell around her feet, and it all falls. It theologically all falls around their feet when you say that God is not willing that any should perish.
Yeah.
Thus, if the will of God is always done, nobody will be lost.
Man, that is powerful. It makes you wonder, like, so there was a statement that was made. I don't see the name, the McGreat one, mentioned about the church being under the oppression of Catholicism. And certainly there are some elements of that. And I think a lot of what we see, Ken, is as the church started to break away from that, there were some things that were still heavily influenced by Catholicism and Catholic thought. In the same way, I think the influence and the effect of Calvinism, particularly hyper-Calvinism, has had such an influence over so much of modern Christianity, that what happens is these things slip in, these belief systems sneak in a very insidious way, that we don't even really recognize that it's become a part of our belief system, when there's no theological foundation for it.
Right.
And in actuality, it actually is in contradiction to true biblical faith, but it's become such a widely, it's like a colloquialism or something that becomes so widely accepted, and that it's just assumed and believed that it's the truth. And this is one of those things that thought, that idea, everything happens for a reason, is so widely accepted that it's not even questioned.
Yeah. I just sent you an article that I wrote last week. Do you see it?
Yeah, there it is.
I just wrote this article last week. The title of the article is Augustine, Calvin, and the Misstep of the Original Sin Doctrine.
Just some little light writing.
Some light bedtime reading. Yeah. But it really does. The only way that I would be able to agree with the Mick Great One statement would be if you were saying that that Calvin adopted Augustine's, some say Augustine, his original sin doctrine, which was interesting because the original sin doctrine, real quick, the original sin doctrine by Augustine was basically that we were born with moral condemnation on our lives.
Yeah.
In other words, we weren't born with the judgment of mortality, which means that you were born and you will die. It's that you can't escape that. That Adam passed that down. He taught that Adam passed down moral judgment, which means that in the DNA, in the blood, was already there was already the sentence of damnation on each subsequent generation. And so then the question then was, well, what about babies who die? And so he couldn't quite reconcile that. So Augustine goes and gets a pagan mythological teaching that basically it is divine determinism, which then became predestination, and that God determines. So God knew which baby would be saved and which baby would not be saved. And so if a baby dies, the baby will be by predetermination. And so Calvin takes that and takes it to the next level. He raises it into a hyper mode.
Yes.
And so then now, if that's the case, then God has to be directing everything that's happening. And so when you say everything happens for a reason, then you are asserting this idea that that every single thing that happens in the world is always God's will.
Yeah.
And that's not what the scriptures say when it said all things work together for good. What that means is there are things that are not God's will. There are things like we talked about, the rape or the murder or we were talking the other day about those poor girls that were on their way to the preview weekend last year, who had that fatal car accident on the way. Just three, teenage girls that were on their way to a university and had an accident, and I don't know, 2 or 3 of them died. You're gonna comfort those parents by saying that that God had a plan in this,
bro.
If somebody said to me, well, you know what? Take comfort in knowing that God had a plan in this. I might say, shut your pie hole.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me? You were like, well, then what's the explanation? Well, that's what we should be exploring.
Yeah.
The explanation is not that God is hyper managing all of the events of life. The explanation is that we live in a fallen world, and that we're living our life, and there's a sovereign God who is allowing us to make decisions and to do certain things, and other people make decisions. And this, Chris, this is the reason why I believe that some Christians would rather believe, because it is a scary thing to think that we're living in a world of absolute randomness.
Absolutely. So I want to run through this real quick, because I think this is really important. Okay. So sovereignty versus superstition really is the conversation, the discussion. Superstition says every event has a hidden mystical cause that must be interpreted.
Right.
But biblical faith says God has revealed his will clearly in scripture, and he calls us to trust him amid uncertainty. That is so huge. The Bible doesn't train believers to interpret omens. It trains believers to walk in obedience, wisdom, prayer, and faithfulness. I think this is that right there is such a huge point. It's not minimizing the sovereignty of God. It's actually saying what I'm going to do is not try to interpret some mystical reasoning behind horrific events and horrible things. What I am going to do is I'm going to trust my faith. I'm going to put my faith, I'm going to put my trust in his goodness, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it doesn't. And then God has the ability to take those horrific things and yes, can God work in us? Absolutely. God didn't have a reason for that, but it's a horrible thing that happens in life because we live in a fallen, broken world.
Yep.
And then God takes that and he can use, you and I come from a broken home.
Yeah.
Well, was that for a reason? No, but here's what I know. God has used that to give us an ability to be able to relate and to connect with people in their brokenness and their hurt. God took something that could have been for our destruction, that was the result of just sinful people living in sin, and it produced this. But God took that and he had a way of turning that into good. My faith and my trust is not that every single thing that happens has this mystical reasoning behind it.
Right.
But my faith is in God is in it. And if God is in it and I can trust in him, that even when I don't understand and it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, I can trust in his goodness and God's going to see me through.
Yeah.
He's going to help me.
Well,
He's going to help my difficulty. He's going to help me when I'm like my mind is full of depression or fear or anxiety. God's going to help me come out of that and see that I can put my trust in him.
Explain though what you mean when you say God is in it. Because you said, I trust that God is in it. Some people might say, well, that's what I'm saying. God was in it. God was in the event.
Probably a better way to say that is God is with us.
There you go. Yeah, God is in it with us.
He's in it with us.
I think that's the important distinction. I think that and I knew what you were saying there, but I didn't want somebody to misinterpret.
For sure.
Say, well, you just said that God's in it. Like, no. We didn't mean that God's in the event and he somehow, no, I love what you're saying. What you're saying is, and I think what people need to hear is that God, why would we need a comforter? Why would Jesus say, in this world you will have tribulation?
Right.
Like what Jesus is saying is that when the perfect is come, we are part of a kingdom that is now and not yet. The full completion of what God is redeeming has not yet happened. But what happens is we have bad things, we have horrific events in life. That I think, Chris, I think that what we're saying today is also that what is our response to that? Our response to that is, I think we need to teach people how to lament better.
Absolutely.
I think that we rush to an explanation, that somehow an explanation is going to help a person heal. Well, God had some purpose in it, and there was some, so you just have to trust that God's and that is Calvinism. And we are not Calvinists. As apostolic oneness believers, we are not Calvinists. So what we say is God didn't have a reason for it. There is a reason. And the reason is that we're living in a world that is so broken and dysfunctional and disordered and in chaos that sin and disease and sickness and death and dying can come from things that are decisions and choices of humans that they intend and that they don't intend, that they can get in a car extremely sleepy and try to make it home to their family and fall asleep and have an accident on the way home. And God didn't make them fall asleep.
Yeah.
They just got in the car and they were human and they were tired. It was a decision of ignorance. On the other end of the spectrum, you could have somebody like Hitler, and you could have people that try to dominate the world, and they get armies and they try to oppress, and those things can happen. But what is God doing? He's sending his spirit. He's sending his comforter. He's sending the touch of his power and his presence. He's giving us peace in the midst of the storm. He's coming to the middle of it. And I think that what we need to learn to do is to take those things that we don't understand and lay them at the feet of Jesus and say, Jesus, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand this. I don't know why this happened. And submit it to him, and not like saying, you know why it happened. You had a reason. No, submit it to him and say, God, This is an event of the brokenness of life that I know that only you can help me get through.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it was God's plan. It doesn't mean, it just simply means that God is our help in times of trouble. He is a strong tower that the righteous run in and are made safe. He throws his arms around us and loves us and comforts us. And he holds us, he holds us, and he heals us, and he helps us get through those things. That's healthy.
One of the most quoted scriptures, Psalms 23, right? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear. Why? Because he's with me.
For the heart
his
with
rod
me.
and his staff comfort me. He's with me, and he walks us through those difficulties. That's the promise, and that's the hope, is not that there's some meaning that we can't perceive right now, but there's a meaning behind it. One of these days, no. My hope and my trust is, I love one of the things that you said in the notes was there's a difference between that and trusting in the character of God, the nature of God. And one of the greatest revelations that I feel like God has worked through me or in me is the revelation of his goodness, that everything God does is rooted in his goodness. And so doesn't mean that everything that happens in my life is good. It means that through his goodness, God sustains me. He upholds me with his right hand. He never leaves me nor forsakes me. He's that comforter that's always there. That's the hope we have, Ken. Imagine how much less depression and fear and anxiety and hopelessness we would have in the body of Christ if we stopped looking for some unknowable mystical explanation
Thank you.
for all the reasons of things that happen in life.
Thank you.
Redirected our trust in a God who's a good God and who's committed to walking with us through every trial and difficulty, who's grieved. Bro, he grieved. He wept when he saw Lazarus's family. Like, he grieved with people that he saw were affected by the things of a fallen, broken world. He was grieved by that. And so what did he do? He comes to us. He walks us through. And I love how you said that. And I think this is a great way to end it, is that comforter. The Holy Ghost is more than just a ticket to heaven, although it's necessary. It's more than just an extra added blessing in life. The comforter is Jesus walking with us through all the difficulties in life.
I want to encourage somebody today, and I want to just end with this one statement. The Bible does not call us to decode God's secret intentions behind every event. Right. It calls us to trust his revealed character, to obey his word, and to walk faithfully in a broken world until he makes all things new.
So good. That's so good, man. Great comments today. We really had a lot of great comments from people coming in. Philip Flowers, the great one on YouTube. So many.
They're coming in strong.
Coming in hot today, and we certainly appreciate that. So thank you for your comments today. Thank you for this engaging in this conversation. Hopefully this is a blessing. Share it. Send it to somebody that you know might need to hear this today, and go like and subscribe on all the podcast platforms. So thank you for joining us. We do have, Ken, a couple week break of live because I am out for a couple weeks.
Yeah, you are.
But we're going to try to figure out a way to do some episodes, and we'll put some of those out there. But we won't be live next Tuesday, the following Tuesday, but we'll be back in a couple weeks. So we look forward